Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Rapid Recap here at Inside Nebraska. With me as always is Tim Verghese, our recruiting extraordinaire, recruiting expert. I'm Zack Carpenter. We're here at the Hawks Championship Center where the Huskers right now, hours ago, completed practice number 13 of 15 of the spring. We got Thursday with the second to last practice, probably be, I'm guessing, a walkthrough. I think that's how it was last spring, maybe last fall, going into the year, but either way, one more practice and then the spring game on Saturday as the 15th and final practice before we head into the dreary doldrums of the off season, which are actually not doldrums for you. You love the summer because it's all recruiting. Encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel so you can get these videos dropped directly into your feed. And speaking of recruiting, we're going to be starting up the recruiting blitz in May with Tim bringing some expertise and getting some national experts hopefully on there to talk Nebraska recruiting and Midwest as a whole, maybe Texas a little bit as the Huskers continue to dive into Longhorn State. But as for today and as for previewing Saturday's spring game, Mario Satterfield and E.J. Barthel both spoke today at the podium, as well as running backs Emmett Johnson and Gabe Ervin Jr. But the first thing I want to start off with here was Barthel talking about what he wants to see from the running backs, not just Saturday, but next season, the fall, with the evolution of this offense, how it's going to be different. Because I mean, you guys, again, you know my stance that I am firmly of the belief, have been before spring even began, that Dylan Raiola is going to be your starting quarterback for Nebraska football in 2024 and beyond. If he's the quarterback and they're creating downfield threats in the throw game, how can this offense, when it comes to the running backs, how can they grow and evolution, or take the next step themselves as the offense goes through its own evolution? What did he talk about? Creating explosive plays.
Yes, sir. And that's been a theme throughout the spring. Everyone offensively has pretty much talked about trying to create those explosive plays. Even last week, Jalen Lloyd mentioned it when he was talking to media out in the hallway. The explosives, those big plays, they're always going to be there. But for them, at this point, they're also working on the fine-tuning, the little things. But those explosive plays are still that number one priority for them, even as they work on cleaning up little things and fix the offense, kind of work on the tweaks within the offense. Within the running game itself, you're starting to see glimpses of that in spring. Obviously, can't read into a whole bunch of spring game videos and what we've seen, but you're seeing, holes being created, running backs bouncing outside. Emmett Johnson specifically, you're seeing him in videos, opening up 30, 40-yard runs, which we didn't really see a whole lot of last year outside of the quarterback, the running backs being able to create those type of explosives consistently.
Yeah, that's the thing, is last year, they had explosives. They had a few explosive plays, but they were always sort of one-offs. It didn't seem like they were coming within the flow of the offense. It was you're saying off camera, design a play action or a trick play or some sort of not necessarily a trick play, but almost coming off a gadget. It felt like in a couple instances. But either way, you would get one, maybe two a game, whether it's Heinrich throwing downfield or Chubba Purdy to Jalen Lloyd, or Heinrich popping off for 72 against Louisiana Tech, or 40 plus, whatever it was, against Michigan State. But you weren't seeing those consistently, and they weren't coming within the flow of the offense. I think that's the picture, that's the idea and the vision, and the plan that they're practicing toward all spring. And we heard the quote that keeps coming to mind for me, especially after this past Saturday, the second scrimmage, from hearing the things that I've heard about how that scrimmage went, how Dylan and some of the receivers looked in practice, is we're going to throw Dylan said as his appearance at the podium, I think it was the first week of April, and he said we're gonna throw the ball downfield and we're gonna have fun doing it. That's the focus, is they wanna open up this offense. And Satterfield said it in first or second week of April as well. We want to create explosives. We need to throw the ball. And that was the emphasis for him, coming into the spring, is, yeah, you can run the ball. We ran the ball well last year at times, but you need to throw the ball. And on Saturday scrimmage, from everything I've heard, is that Dylan's the real deal, is pretty much the bottom line emphasis. And Matt
throwing
Rule,
the ball well.
Matt Rule and this coaching staff are doing their due diligence to try to smother the hype train a little bit so it just doesn't get out of control like it has in the past. But on Saturday, if they let Raiola uncork it and show off what he's got, like that's just gonna
open up a lot. You know, I think it's gonna hype's gonna go into the summer. You know, we're gonna see a different conversation. Even just talking to people I know that are fans just around the state. You know, all of them are just like, I just want to see what happens on Saturday at the spring game. And I think for a lot of people, it's just you have to see it to believe it. And I get that, but I mean, we watched the high school tape, and we've done, me and Zack specifically, we've seen this at other programs, what it looks like, and Dylan's what it looks,
Yeah,
like,
he looks like the real deal. I mean, he was ranked as a 5-star. He's the highest ranked Nebraska signee in the history of ever. So he looks like that. He was ranked that highly for a reason, and he's looked.
This isn't This isn't a raw quarterback with like a lot of tools that that needs to be developed. This is a guy that's ready to play, and mentally, physically, the guy's ready to play. Like,
I mean, he was out here for the pro day. I think I've talked about this on video, and like, you could see that he was already a pro-made prospect. I mean, he's out here. He was 18, he's 18, and he was out here for the pro day, and. I come back to, like, if I showed you, if I just erase your memory, give you the Jim Carrey Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind surgery, like, erase your memory, you don't know who Dylan Raiola is, you don't know who any of these quarterbacks are, and I show you him on a field with 10 other quarterbacks in his class, or maybe even the last class or past 2 classes, I show you those guys on the field, you don't know who any of them are, and you just looked at them running around, like, throwing, doing drills. I guarantee that 90% of the people would say, "Who's that guy? Who's the best pro prospect out here? It's that guy. Whoever 15 in green is over there,
with the mullet."
Yeah, with the Patrick Mahomes almost style hairdo. But it's one thing to have those expectations, have those rankings. Another thing to do it, and we're seeing that play out so far. Hearing about that, at least, play out so far throughout spring ball. He's taken the reins. I already thought he was gonna win this starting quarterback job, and it's not officially decided. But he's taken the reins of that QB1 battle and is putting his stamp on it. But as far as Saturday's spring game goes, something Mitch Sherman at The Athletic said on a podcast that I was listening to today, and something I was just nodding my head in agreement with. Mitch was saying that Heinrich Harburg is probably going to get those first reps, be the official starter for the spring game, get that first series, maybe first 2 series. I'm just nodding my head like, yep, I think that's what's going to happen too. It's a respect thing, I think, more just as much as anything. Heinrich's improved.
And truly it's deserved because of the improvements we've seen this spring.
And last year, I was very adamant about how much I respected the hell out of Heinrich Harburg. Like, he was going out there, he was a warrior every Saturday and single-handedly keeping the offense in games. Despite his struggles with turnovers, with fumbles and interceptions, he was still battling. Like, he was still going out there and running it. I mean, however many times a game, he was getting beat up, bruised and beaten up. And he was 5-3 as a starter before going out in the first series against Maryland during that game. So anyway, long story short, I think we'll probably see Heinrich as a starter for the spring game, but I'm really excited to see if we get to see Dylan Raiola sort of show off that arm.
The offense open up. And at the same time, this is a spring game. This is publicly available, and typically teams leave the spring game pretty vanilla. It's a pretty vanilla playbook. They're not trying to show off a whole lot. Nebraska did this past spring, or this last scrimmage, ran about 100 plus. We heard 120 plus
120
plays.
live play, 200 total of 9-on-7, 7-on-7, 2-minute drill, which is all. That was about 80 plays and then about 120 live scrimmage plays.
So those that scrimmage is where they really got to open up the offense and try some things on both sides of the ball. The spring game, we're expecting vanilla just because that's just the norm for spring games. But if they choose to open it up, who knows? And
last year, I mean, people will say what can you really tell from the spring game? It's like, well, you go in. That's what I always thought too. I was always sort of that attitude. until then you look back when we were in September, October, and you look back to the spring game in 2023. Like, they had 8 turnovers. They put the ball on the ground. I think they had 8 turnovers. I think they had 8 fumbles. And they lost 6 of them. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow. Well, looking back on it, yeah, I guess that was telling. And then that led into the fall and into August training camp, where during scrimmages they're turning it over. So this spring has been a lot cleaner than it has been as far as ball security. It's like, all right, you know what, man, that's the first step, because you can't score the ball if you don't have it. If you can't take care of it.
Yeah, that's something we need to see. Looking ahead to Saturday, looking at the spring game, are they taking care of the ball better? What does the defensive rotation look like? We're going to see some young guys, and offensively, what does that rotation look like? We've got these top 2 transfer receivers that have come in, Jamal and Neor, but how do some of these younger guys? We've heard a lot about Demetrius Bell, but honestly, in all of the open practices we've had, we haven't really noticed Bell.
I think at least one time he was in a yellow jersey, if not twice. I know one of them. I think the last one, yes. He was.
But he hasn't been someone that's caught our eye compared to like a Ja'Cory Barney, who has caught our attention in almost every single practice availability we had. But there's been a lot of talk about Bell. That's a guy we'd want to see more from. Jaden Doss, want to see a little more from him in the spring game. And then kind of circling back to the running backs. Dante Dowdle, Emmett Johnson, Emmett's had a lot of hype, this spring, kind of a name that keeps getting brought up, right? Like emerging as like a RB1, maybe?
I think my thing over the past few weeks is that, or at least the past week or two, like people keep flipping the F out about the running back room. Like, it's the big question mark, it's a big mystery, like that's going to be the weakness. And I don't know if it's going to be the weakness of the offense, but I also don't think it's as drastic and dramatic as most people seem to think. I mean, Emmett Johnson came in last year and saved the running back room as far as production goes, when that room just gets decimated. And then you have Anthony Grant having to get through his struggles with his ball security, and Emmett Johnson's sort of that steady Eddie, where he fumbled against Illinois. And I wrote a story last year. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he fumbled against Illinois. And from that moment on, all the way through, I believe it was through the Wisconsin game, or it was through the Maryland game, where he had it was a certain number of carries, no fumbles. All I know is that he had I think it was 80-some carries with no fumbles, compared to all other ball carriers had 5 or 6. After that fumble, he didn't put the ball on the ground once. And if we're talking about ball security and that being the main basis, that's the number one thing you got to start with, then that's a reliable guy, I think. If he could take that next step, we talk about creating explosive plays at the start of it, and that's what Barthel's looking for out of Emmett Johnson, Ramir Johnson, Gabe Irvin Jr. if he's healthy, Dante Dowdell if he can learn this system, get acquainted with everything, and grow and be a impact piece in the fall. He said that he's been happy with Emmett and Quentin Ives, redshirt freshman, to mention him. They've been doing a really good job of making guys miss at the second level, and Barthel said today, if we could create some more explosive plays, more explosive runs, then we can put some guys away. And he's been happy with at least those 2 guys, or 2 he mentioned, as far as breaking away, making guys miss at the second level and breaking away for those bigger runs. Yeah.
And, I think some of the talk about the room, I think, is a little overblown, especially considering, what Nebraska's trying to do. We've talked about, we spent most of this time talking about trying to create explosives, trying to open up the pass game. Not a whole lot's changed in that running back room besides the addition of Dowdle, but you look at that room, you see 4 names that, as a committee, that works. That works in the Big Ten. That is, those 4 names. You don't need, especially in this day and age, you don't need a superstar bell cow running back to be able to run the ball effectively.
That's my opinion too.
What's better, and you go look at some of the top teams in the country and how they did it. Even look at Texas last year. Texas had a running back in Jonathan Brooks that, even before he tore his ACL, the guy had 1,000 rushing yards, probably going to be one of the first running backs taken in the draft this Thursday or this weekend. And, he was in a rotation. They're working, Cedric Baxter, a freshman, behind him. They're working Jaden Blue in alongside him. This isn't, they're even with a guy that is a future NFL star running back, they're working in 2-3 backs behind him. In this day and age, with what the position, with the wear and tear that position takes, and wanting to get fresh legs out there, you need a committee. And Nebraska has at least 4 guys right now that they're pretty confident in.
That's sort of, I guarantee that's the same thing you've been hearing from running back recruits. Like they want to come in as a 2-back class.
And this changed a couple of years ago. I remember
2021 class, right?
Yep, 2021. Even before that, I remember the Zack Evans, who was a 5-star out of North Shore back in the 2019 class. I remember when he was going through his recruitment, he was
what a recruitment that guy had.
Yeah, a nightmare of recruitment. But I remember talking to him going through his recruitment, and he was like, I'm talking to other top backs about teaming up together, about being in a tandem, because I want to preserve my legs for the NFL. That's a serious thing that these running backs are looking for. And there's metrics, from the NFL down to college, of they're looking for guys under this certain amount of carries in their career, because long term it projects that this guy is going to be able to make it through at least a contract or 2 without any serious injury, just based on precedent and carries. So there's numbers they're looking for, and recruits are flocking to, and prefer teams that have, these running back by committee types. And Zack, to his credit, did that. Went to TCU first, split carries with Kendre Miller, and he went to Ole Miss, split carries with Quinshon Judkins, and now he's in the league. So
yeah, I think that was around 2021. That was the first recruiting class I took, or I remember hearing about that sort of approach. Travion Henderson, when I was covering Ohio State, him and Evan Pryor both came in to Ohio State's 21 class, and they were both of the mind, like, I want to come in with a second running back because saves tread on the tires, and a big thing was we want to make it to that second NFL contract. That's what so many of these guys, like especially the elite top tier players, their dream is to make it to free agency so that they can get a second contract in the NFL. And that's when you make your generational wealth if you're not a quarterback anyway. So that's I think, I know we're going big picture here and philosophical, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, some position talk.
Yeah, so a little deep dive on the running back discussion at large. Yeah. And anyway, the smaller scale point is that I agree with you that running back in the NFL is the least valued position, because you don't need that superstar bell cow if you're not a Derrick Henry-led offense, or Adrian Peterson. That was from yesteryear, and that's how we're seeing. I think college game is now. It's sort of adapted to that line of thinking as well, and you don't need. I mean, just to hammer home the point again, you don't need that bell cow back. I think just pretty much I just want to retweet what you just said, because you get Ramir Johnson, Gabe Ervin Jr., Emmett Johnson, Dante Dowdell. If you get that progression from Quentin Ives, or a couple guys mentioned today, Maurice Mazuka and Kenneth Williams as walk-on guys, like I think you can get enough production out of this running back room. And if you can get the guys who can make a miss at the second level and take one to the house, or pop one off for 30, 40 yards, something like that, that's just going to add another dynamic element to what I think is going to be a dynamic passing game. So any other thoughts to hit on before we get out of here?
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, real quick on the running back. I guess one way to put it would be, you're not looking for a 1,000-yard rusher. You're looking for, as a room, can these 4 or 5 guys hit 15 to 1,600 yards over the course of a season, maybe even more. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a room that, as a whole, can clear 1,000 yards, but you're not looking for an individual 1,000-yard rusher, because that's just in the current college football era, with especially with the amount of rotating that Nebraska does, it's just going to be tough.
Yeah, with a guy like Gabe Ervin, who's that physical back who needs a lot of carries to eventually like wear on a defense, you're still not going to see him probably go over 15 carries, especially if they're wanting to save him for throughout the course of a season. Emmett was performing really well last year, and then I don't think he ever even went over 20 carries. So I think that's sort of what we're shaping up to be again in 2024. We'll see what they can bring on Saturday. I'm excited to see the progression. I feel like it's going to be sort of that steady Eddie, like 6-7 yard runs is like the consistent thing that you want, and then maybe you break one off for a long one. Excited to see, again, Isaiah Nayor, Jamal Banks, Corey Barney, and Jalen Lloyd. I think those are some of the explosive play guys. Well, 3 of those are the explosive play guys, and then Banks, like we said, is that chain gang mover and big red zone target. We'll see how much they're used, how much time they get before they get pulled off the field and save them for the real ball in the fall. But again, I don't think that was anything
for sure.
else to hit
I guess
on.
one other thing, one offensively, just to keep an eye on this spring. Mentioned it. It's been mentioned throughout spring. Guys in the building are really high on Thomas Fidoni and kind of what he
forget to mention
what
him,
he could be in for in 2024. So it sounds like his role in the offense is increased, and just from what we've seen, he's moving around a little more explosive, a little more juice than he had in 2023. Especially that was the first year coming off the injury and fully healthy, a full offseason of work, full offseason of adding strength, muscle, explosiveness,
more confidence in
more
his
confidence
leg,
as well.
knee.
So looking forward to kind of seeing what he does on Saturday. I think that's one I'm going to be keeping an eye on, how they use him, what the offense kind of looks like, especially with the tight end position, especially with considering adding Carter to that room this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are that's a litany of guys that we'll be on the lookout for this Saturday. But again, encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, because you can get all of these analysis videos, our highlight videos, and press conference footage all drop directly into your feed. We'll have all of that on throughout the week on Thursday at Thursday's press conference, Saturday after the spring game. We'll have that and a whole lot more. Encourage you guys to go to InsideNebraska.com. I know Steve Mark, our main football writer, has some more stuff on the running backs today, because Barthel went through a lot of thoughts on pretty much everyone in that running back room. So encourage you guys, again, InsideNebraska.com, read up on all of those guys. So for Tim Verghese, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.